Ladies and gentle dudes, welcome to Southern Creator Channel. My name is Alan. Today I am launching my new project. The place we are going to be building is Malachor 5, home of the ancient Sith weapon, the large cavern. So you will probably remember, most famously, Malachor 5 from Rebels, when Kanan Jarrus, Ezra Bridger, Ahsoka Tano went to Malachor 5. Maul was there, along with the Inquisitors that showed up, and you had quite the exciting events there at Malachor, following, of course, Vader and Ahsoka and all that later on. Very good series of episodes there. However, Malachor 5 that I'm building is in a different period on the timeline. Now, I think the Jedi are cool, always have liked that, but in my opinion, the Sith are a much more interesting aspect of Force lore. So there is a comic that came out roughly in 2017, if I remember correctly, specifically Darth Maul Comic number 2, where Darth Sidious took a young apprentice Maul to Malachor 5 to show him the devastation of all the Sith and Jedi that were killed there, primarily, of course, the Sith that were basically petrified with the Sith weapon having been activated in the middle of the battle. So that is what I am building, Malachor 5. This is going to be a lit build. So we're going to have all the Sith runes really lit up. So this is going to be a very interesting, very tricky build to accomplish, but hopefully one that is satisfying to you. Several years ago, I made a MOC of this scene. It was what I would consider now nothing more than just a prototype, of what I'm going to do. But that was my interest, has always been there. Now I'm going to do this scene justice. So that's what we were 3 or 4 years ago now. Today, we're going to do much better, put all my skills to the test to really flesh this scene out. So join me now as we start the build, and I really hope you all like this series. Let's get into it.
All right, we have our initial foundation down. This is going to be a free-form situation, so you can see I've already tried to put a little bit of curve in here. We will build up some of this a little higher, or towards the back and the sides, a little bit more flat in the middle here. But we have our start, some filler brick of random colors, and now we will start working on getting a border in here and putting some of the final plate in here before we get started on the rest. Okay, next I have put a strip of single studded plates along the edge here for the purposes of, here's my modified brick bucket, being able to put these here, and then I'll show you. Most of you, I'm sure, know the geometry of Lego, but if you don't, here's why. A brick such as this, 2 studs wide, is exactly 1 brick plus 2 plates wide. So this is how you can build your borders. So that's where we will start. I will need to go ahead and put modified bricks around most of this, and we'll get going on building our border. For this segment, I am now here with Casanova, the Lego cat. He has been overseeing me putting down the plates over our substructure to the terrain here. Like I said, this area is going to be mostly flat in here. We'll, of course, be putting some terrain in there. And then this out here will be more raised. But we'll go ahead and at least get something down right here. To start, you can see where we've got most of these modified bricks in here. And then we'll fill all this in as needed as we build the surrounding edges. So we'll go ahead and get the rest of these plates laid down, and then we can do, I think what we're going to do is go ahead and get the terrain going, and we will probably, very likely, do the border later. just because I don't know exactly how the terrain is going to wind up out here, and the border will be 2 studs wide here, but perhaps more like 4 or 6 studs wide as you go around. So we'll probably do that at a later point. How's that, Mr. Katie? All right, so we've got another level of these going in here. I might even raise it once more back there. And this doesn't indicate necessarily that this is exactly where the levels will be. You can still form the terrain however you want, but this gives us a good framework, a good skeleton underneath everything to start out with. And then again, we can form this as we see fit as we go forward. I think I'll go ahead and just raise this one more level just to see what it comes out as. Having built up the back line, and these are all modified bricks back here, I can now complete this level up here. Let's just go ahead and do that very quickly here. So I've got my stack of these. Always good to have ample supply of plates. Here we are. And this about does it. Okay, so now we've got a very good working area here, a canvas, if you will, to build upon. And we have a structural shape that will guide us along with our terrain work. This right here is going to be a slope. We're gonna have this gradually slope down right here. We'll just work that along as we move through the process. So there, now we have our basis for getting going on our terrain. And once we get our terrain in here, we'll start building terrain in, have some undulation in here, if you will, with rocks and so on. And then we will start to, as we get the back done, we'll move down here and have the border of this take form. It'll have to kind of all go in at the same time so we can make it all meet together. All right, so the next thing we're going to work on here is some of these pillars. There's some good artwork out there that you can find on your own of Malachor is going to have a lot of these pillars with red runes on the stones, I guess Sith language, red runes. So I'm starting to design these. I actually built this already and didn't like it. I had more random patterns on here, but I wanted to have more visible linear patterns. So I've kind of redone this again, but I plan on having a good number of these. Of course, a lot of that depends on how many of these things I go through. I actually probably could use a good bit more of these than I have, but we'll see how far we get on the stash that we have. And let me get a little more progress done here, and then Casanova and I will be back. Here is the finished product. So there's the side that you saw me working on. I made another side there, and then the next two sides are more interesting as the back is thoroughly falling apart, and then this side right here still has parts and pieces of the runes, but it is deteriorating. So you can kind of see what I'm going for. This will be the front, right? So it'll sit out here somewhere like this, and then you can see this thing's just deteriorating badly. If you notice something here, I've got kind of a pattern with these divots, if you will, and then I've got some up here to indicate that this was once upon a time much taller, and it is just collapsing, falling apart. And I left the bottom hollow such that we can add lights into this thing, and there, that'll look interesting when we set that up. So anyway, there's there's where we're going for. I kind of like how this turned out. Really do. So now we need to make some of different sizes. These things don't have to be the same. And all the artwork I've seen of Malachor, none of these are really homogeneous. They're rather random in size and shape and all that. So this is actually a good thing. Just can kind of free form my ideas for these things, and no matter what I do, it'll probably look fine. So let's go ahead and move on to some more pillars. The next section I am working on here is this archway. It's slightly smaller in its pillars than this one here, but bigger overall. We'll have a section up here up top as well, where you'll also have some runes up top, as I've already started. And you know, it's also every piece in here is going to be in a state of deterioration, chunks missing out. I really like that. So we're almost done with this one, and then that'll probably wrap it up for the week, because this took me, I don't know, 4 hours, 2 hours for the first version I made, then 2 for the second, which I like a lot better. This has been a couple hours of work. You don't realize it when you're putting all these little pieces together, but it takes a while to build things like this. So yeah, it's been a couple days of work, or day of work on this, 2 days of work on that, because, you know, I have a regular job too, and then working on this. So yeah, we're probably going to wrap it up to this, but we've got a good start. So I'll probably go ahead and finish this right quick here. All right, this thing's finally done, and I think it's okay. It's very worn. A lot of chunks falling out. You can tell just wear and tear on this thing. It's very ancient, right? I think it'll do just fine. My plan is to have a few very, very broken steps leading up to it, maybe over here on the left side of the build. So this has been several days of work. I know it doesn't look like much just yet, but the more detail you do, the longer it takes. So I think we'll go ahead and call this week's video here. I do appreciate you watching. I hope you have a very good one.